The ship drifted through the silent dark, its hull humming softly with the pulse of memory crystals lining its walls. Lisa stood at the viewport, watching the stars blur into streaks as they neared the edge of human space. Earth was close now only, 3 jumps away, but the closer they got, the heavier the air felt. Not with gravity, but with absence. No signals. No broadcasts, no songs. Just quiet Claire sat in the pilot's seat. Her fingers tight on the controls. She had not spoken much since they left Zyra. Her eyes fixed on the path ahead. Elena was in the back sorting notebooks by World. Kale sat cross-legged on the floor, his hands resting on a glowing crystal that showed flickers of old Earth cities, streets full of people, markets loud, with voices, children chasing each other through parks. That was before the hollowing came. Kyle sent his thoughts gentle like falling leaves. Lisa nodded. She could feel it now, not just silence but a wrongness, like a song played backward notes that should bring comfort now brought dread. They dropped out of jump near Mars. The red planet hung in the void, cold and still. No ships, no stations, no signs of life. Earth loomed ahead, blue and white, but the blue looked dull, the white thin like old paper. They landed in what was once Chicago. The city stood empty, towers, dark windows like blind eyes. The streets cracked with weeds, but no birds, no insects, no wind in the trees. They stepped out onto the pavement, boots echoing in the stillness. This is not right, Elena whispered. It is not just empty. It is forgotten. Lisa knelt and touched the ground. A faint hum answered her, not from the earth, but from something buried deep. A memory trying to rise. She closed her eyes and listened, and heard a whisper. My name is Daniel. I was 8 when the lights went out. I hid in the library because it smelled like my grandma's house. I wrote my name on the wall so someone would know I was here. Lisa opened her eyes, tears on her cheeks. We have to find that library. They moved through the city like ghosts. Careful, quiet. The eraser was here. They could feel it in the way shadows clung too long in corners, in the way some buildings seemed to watch them. The library stood near the river, its doors broken, its steps covered. In dust inside, books lay scattered, pages torn not by time but by anger. Someone had tried to erase every word, but on the wall of the children's section, written in shaky crayon, were the words, Daniel was here. Lisa placed her hand on the words and sang a simple song about stars and safe places. The wall glowed faintly. Then a soft voice said, Thank you. They spent the day walking the city, calling out names. They found more messages carved in desks, scribbled on mirrors, painted on walls, each one a spark in the dark. By nightfall, they gathered in the library and built a small fire. Not for warmth, but for light. Claire spoke first. My daughter's name is Elena Grace Morgan. She loves sour candy and stray cats. And she never gives up, Elena added. My mother's name is Claire Morgan. She taught me that kindness is never wasted. Cale placed his hand on the floor and sent a vision of Zyra. The singing trees, the heartstone, the queen bowing not to power but to love. Then Lisa spoke. My name is Lisa, and I remember you as she said it. The fire flared, not with heat but with color, golden light spreading through the library, then out the windows into the streets. One by one, lights flickered on in the buildings. Not electric, but memory-made real windows, glowed with the soft light of remembered lives, and people began to appear, not all at once but slowly. A woman stepped onto a balcony wrapped in a thin blanket. A man opened a door holding a child's hand. An old man walked down the street carrying a loaf of bread that should not exist. They looked dazed, confused, but their eyes were clear. The hollowing had not taken them. It had only made them forget they mattered. Now they remembered. But the eraser was not done. It rose from the river, black water, swirling into a shape taller than the buildings, its form shifting, its voice a chorus of every lie ever told. You are too late, it hissed. The world has chosen silence. No, Lisa said, stepping forward. We chose to come back. She did not fight it with light or song this time. She walked right up to it and placed her hand on its chest where a heart would be if it had one. And she whispered your name. The eraser froze. It had no name. It had never been given one. It was only silence. Only void, but Lisa gave it one. You are not nothing, she said. You are lost, and that is okay. The eraser trembled. For the first time in its existence it felt seen, not as a monster, but as a wound. And wounds can hell. The black form collapsed into a pool of water, then rose again, smaller, gentler, shaped like a child made of mist. "What is my name?" it asked. Lisa smiled. "You can choose." The child looked at the people gathering in the streets, at the lights in the windows, at the fire in the library. "I want to remember too," it said. Then it walked into the library and sat by the fire. The hollowing was over, not because it was destroyed, but because it was welcomed. The days that followed, life returned slowly, not all at once, but like spring after a long winter. People opened their doors, shared food, told stories, wrote names on fresh paper. Lisa and her friends stayed to help. They taught the people how to listen, not just to each other, but to the quiet voices inside themselves. They rebuilt the broadcast towers, not for news, but for songs, for lullabies, for names spoken with love. One evening, Lisa stood on the roof of the library, watching the city breathe again. Lights twinkling like stars brought down to earth. The Queen appeared beside her, not in body, but in thought. Her presence warm like sunlight. "You did it," the Queen sent. "No." Lisa replied, "We did it." She looked at Claire, teaching a group of children how to write their names. Elena reading stories to elders. Kale showing young ones how to grow memory crystals in small pots. This was not the end, it was a beginning, and Lisa knew her work was not done. There were other worlds, other silences, other lost names waiting to be spoken. But for now she would rest. She sat by the fire with the child who once was the eraser and told it a story about a girl from Ohio who liked old movies and hated mushrooms, and who one day remembered that kindness was the bravest thing of all. And the child listened, and remembered too far away on Zira. The Heartstone glowed brighter than ever, and somewhere in the dark another voice whispered, "I am here," and someone heard. Months passed on Earth, and the world learned to breathe again. Not all at once, but in small, steady ways, like seeds pushing through cracked concrete. Children played in streets. Once silent markets buzzed with voices, not just trading goods, but sharing stories. People gathered at dusk to speak names of those they had lost, not with tears of grief, but with smiles of remembrance. Lisa stayed, but she did not rule. She walked among them, listening more than speaking, fixing broken radios, teaching old songs, helping rebuild not just buildings, but trust. She wore the same gray coat she had worn on Zara, and her scar still glowed faintly when someone nearby felt alone. The child who once was the eraser, now called Finn, lived with her in a small house. Near the lake, Finn did not speak much, but watched everything with wide eyes, learning what it meant to be kind, to laugh, to cry, to care. Finn carried a small notebook and wrote down every new name, heard every new story. Told Claire and Elena opened a school in the old library, not for math or science, but for memory. They taught children how to listen to silence without fear, how to speak truth without shame, how to hold space for others' pain without fixing it. Just being there, Kyle returned to Zyra briefly and came back with seeds from the crystal trees. They planted them in city parks, and though they did not grow like earth trees, they hummed softly at dawn, a sound that calmed restless hearts. But peace is never a wall. It is a door, and sometimes things come through. One morning a ship appeared in orbit. Not human, not Zyran, not like anything Lisa had seen before. It was smooth black with no windows, no markings. It did not hail them. It simply waited. Lisa felt it before she saw it, a pull in her chest like a thread tied to something far away. She gathered her friends and they went to the landing field. The ship lowered a ramp and a figure stepped out, short, wrapped in woven silver cloth face. Hidden, but posture tense. Not hostile. Just tired. It knelt not to Lisa, but to Finn. Lisa stepped forward. "Who are you?" The figure lifted its head, revealing eyes the color of storm clouds and skin marked with faint lines like old scars. "We are the keepers of the last echo." The voice was soft, musical, but worn thin. "We have walked the void for generations, searching for the one who turned silence into song." They looked at Finn. "You healed the hollowing. But you did not know it was born from us." Finn tilted their head confused. Long ago the Queen of Zyra was not the first to guard memory before her. There were others, beings of light, who held the stories of the universe, but they grew proud. They began to choose which stories mattered, which voices deserved to be heard. They silenced the weak, the strange, the broken, One of them rebelled. She took the silenced voices and ran. The others hunted her. In her fear, she shattered her own heart, and the pieces became the hollowing, not to erase but to protect the forgotten by hiding them in silence. That rebel was our ancestor, and Finn, you carry her. Echoliza looked at Finn, who stared at their hands as if seeing them for the first time. So the hollowing was never evil. Lisa said, just lost. Yes, the keeper replied. And now it has a name and a home, but the others, the proud ones, they know the echo has returned. They will come to take it back to lock away the voices again. Lisa understood then. This was not over. The keeper rose and offered a small box made of starlight wood. Inside lay a single feather, not black, not gray, but shimmering with every color at once. This is the first voice ever forgotten. A child's laugh on a world long gone. If the proud ones hear it, they will burn every world to find its source. You must protect it. Lisa took the box and felt its warmth. We will. The keeper bowed again, then returned to their ship, which vanished as quietly as it came. That night they held a council in the library, firelight dancing on worried faces. What do we do? Claire asked. We hide the feather, Lisa said, but not in a vault, not in silence we share. Idalina frowned. But if the proud ones hear it, then let them hear it, Lisa said. Let them hear what they tried to erase. She opened the box and held the feather up. It did not make a sound at first. Then, slowly, a laugh rose, soft, bright, full of joy. The laugh of a child who had never known fear. Everyone in the room smiled without meaning to. Finn reached out and touched it, and the laugh grew stronger, spreading through the walls into the streets. People stopped what they were doing and listened, then smiled too. Far above in the dark, a fleet stirred ancient ships with sails of frozen time. Their captains hearing the laugh for the first time in eons. They were coming. But Lisa was ready. She gathered every storyteller, every singer, every child who knew a lullaby, every elder who remembered old names. They built stages in every city, not for speeches but for sharing. They taught the laugh to everyone, not as a secret but as a gift. When the proud ones arrived, their ships dark and sharp, they expected silence, they expected fear. Instead they found music. 1,000 voices singing the child's laugh, weaving it into songs of courage, of home, of hope. The proud ones landed in armor made of judgment. Their leader, tall with eyes like cold stars. You dare play with what was sealed away, he said. We dare to remember, Lisa replied. She stepped forward, not with the feather, but with Finn beside her. This is not yours to lock away, she said. These voices belong to everyone. The leader raised his hand to strike, but then he heard it again. The laugh not loud but clear, and for the first time he remembered his own childhood. A time before he learned to judge, before he forgot how to play. His armor cracked, not from force but from feeling. He fell to his knees, not in defeat but in release. The others followed. The proud ones did not leave. They stayed and listened, and slowly began to speak their own forgotten names. The war that never was ended in a single breath. Back in the library, Lisa placed the feather in a glass case, not to lock it away but so everyone could see it. It glowed softly, humming with joy. Finn sat beside it, writing in their notebook. Finn. I was silence. I am now. Song. Lisa smiled and looked out the window. At the city alive with voices, she knew more challenges would come. More silences, more wounds, but she also knew something stronger. As long as one person remembered to care, no voice would ever be truly lost. And that was enough. Lisa woke to the sound of wind singing through the crystal leaves outside her chamber, the air cool and sweet with the scent of blooming night moss. She sat up on the soft stone bed woven with living vines and looked at her hands. They no longer felt like just hers. They carried weight, memory, purpose. It had been 2 weeks since the invaders left, since she chose to stay, since the Heartstone's light settled into her bones like a second heartbeat. The people of Zira called her Illyra, which meant the one who returns. They did not treat her as a ruler but as a guide, and that felt right. The queen visited her each morning, not with ceremony but with quiet presence. They walked the gardens together, speaking in images and feelings more than words. Lisa was learning their way of thought, slow, patient, full of listening. The queen never pushed her to remember more, only to be present. But something troubled the queen. Lisa could feel it in the way her silver filaments dimmed at dusk, in the Way she paused before answering simple questions. What is it? Lisa asked one evening as they stood on the balcony watching the twin suns sink behind the singing mountains. The queen hesitated, then showed her a vision not of war, but of silence. A great emptiness spreading from the edge of known space, swallowing stars not by force but by forgetting planets went dark. Not because they were destroyed, but because no one remembered they existed. It is called the hollowing. The queen sent the name carried. A chill it feeds on forgotten stories, lost names, broken promises. Lisa frowned. So it is not a weapon. It is worse, the queen replied. It is what happens when hope ends. Lisa thought of Earth. How many stories had already been lost? How many voices silenced? By time or fear she knew that it cannot be stopped. Only by remembering, the queen said, only by speaking names aloud. By lighting candles in the dark, by saying, I see you, Lisa. Understood then why they had waited for her. Not because she was powerful, but because she remembered how to care for strangers, for broken things, for quiet moments. The next day Lisa asked to visit the archives deep beneath the city where memories of 1,000 worlds were stored, not in books, but in living crystals. Each one humming with a life once lived. She walked the aisles, touching the warm surfaces, feeling joy, sorrow, courage, fear flow into her like gentle rain. She found one crystal darker than the rest, cold and silent. She reached for it. The queen gasped, but it was too late. Images flooded her mind, a human colony on a frozen moon. Children laughing in snow. A teacher named Mara who taught them songs from old Earth. A ship arriving not with help, but with orders to abandon the moon because it was no longer useful. The children left behind, the songs forgotten. The colony erased from records. Lisa pulled her hand back, tears streaming down her face. That was my grandmother, she whispered. The queen placed a hand on her shoulder. We did not know. Lisa sat on the floor, trembling with grief and rage. She had grown up hearing fragments of that story, but never the truth. Her grandmother never spoke of the moon, only of the songs. Now she knew why. That night Lisa stood before the Heartstone again. Not to fight, but to speak. She closed her eyes and sang the first song her grandmother ever taught her, a lullaby about stars, watching over lost travelers. The Heartstone glowed brighter with every word. The dark crystal in the archive warmed and began to hum far. Away on the frozen moon, long buried under ice, a single flower pushed through the snow. Its petals silver like starlight, the hollowing had been pushed back by one song. News spread through the stars, not by signal but by feeling. Other worlds began to remember their own lost stories. Parents told children old tales, elders lit memory fires in village squares. The hollowing slowed, but it was not gone. One morning a small ship landed on the edge of the city. Not an invader, not a friend, but a human. Vessel battered and running on fumes. Lisa recognized the markings. It was from the Outer Rim, a mining colony known for its rough ways. She went alone to meet them. The ramp lowered and a woman stepped out, tall with short brown hair and tired eyes. She wore a patched jacket and carried no weapon. Lisa tensed, but the woman simply looked at her and said, "You are her, aren't you? The one they talk about in whispers." "Who are you?" Lisa asked. "My name is Claire. I came because my daughter is gone." Lisa's chest tightened. "Tell me." Claire's voice broke. "She vanished 6 months ago on a survey mission near the Silence Belt. We searched everywhere, but the comms went dead. Then last week I heard a song on a broken frequency, her favorite lullaby, and it led me here." Lisa knew that song. She brought Claire to the Heartstone and asked her to speak her daughter's name aloud. Claire did, tears falling freely as she said, "Elena Grace Morgan, born under the red harvest moon. Loved sunsets and sour candy, and never met a stray cat. She didn't try to feed." The Heartstone pulsed and showed them a vision. Elena was alive on a drifting station near the edge of the hollowing. She had been collecting lost stories, writing them down in notebooks, trying to fight the silence with paper and ink. "She is not forgotten," Lisa said. Claire sobbed in relief. Lisa turned to the queen. "We have to go get her." The queen nodded but warned, "The hollowing is strongest there. It will try to make you doubt yourself, to forget why you came." "I won't forget." Lisa said, "I have too many names to carry now." They prepared a small vessel, not armed but shielded with memory crystals. Lisa took only a few things: her grandmother's locket, a notebook filled with songs, and the gray coat from the vision, the one the pastor had worn. As they left the city, the people gathered not to bow but to sing. The journey took 3 days through star fields that grew quieter the closer they got to the silence belt. Stars still shone, but their light felt cold, distant, like they had given upon the 4th day. They found the station small and rusted. Floating alone in the void, inside they found Elena, thin but alive, surrounded by stacks of notebooks, her eyes wide with disbelief when she saw Lisa. "You came," she whispered. "We remembered you." Lisa said. Elena showed them her work. Thousands of names. Stories, poems, letters from people no one else knew existed. She had been broadcasting them on every frequency, hoping someone would hear, but the hollowing was close. Lisa could feel it in the air, a pressure on her thoughts, a whisper telling her none of this mattered, that she was just one woman, that the universe was too big for kindness to count. She almost believed it. Then she saw Elena's hands trembling as she held a page with her mother's handwriting, a letter Claire had sent years ago before the silence grew. Lisa took a deep breath and began to sing the lullaby again, softly at first, then stronger. The heartstone in her pocket glowed, the station lights flickered, then brightened. The hollowing recoiled. They brought Elena home when Claire saw her daughter step off the ship. She ran forward and held her so tight, neither of them let go for a long time. Lisa stood back watching, the reunion, feeling the weight of her own loneliness shift, not gone but shared back on Zira. The Queen greeted them with quiet joy. "You did not just save one life, you reminded 100 worlds that they are." Lisa smiled. "I am learning that night." She sat on the balcony again, but this time she was not alone. Elena joined her, holding a new notebook. "Will you tell me your story?" Lisa asked. Elena nodded and began to write, and far away in the dark another lost voice heard a song and whispered back, "The hollowing had not won out today, not while someone remembered to care." Lisa walked through the market square of Zyra's lower city. Her boots quiet on the warm stone path around her life, hummed in gentle rhythm aliens of many kinds, traded songs for seeds, shared stories over cups of glowing tea, and wove light into tapestries that changed with the mood of the viewer. She no longer felt like an outsider, but she still carried the quiet ache of being human among beings who remembered lifetimes in a single breath. Elena had stayed with them now, living in a small chamber near the archives, helping to copy lost tales into new crystals. Her hands moved fast. Sure, steady, she had found purpose in preserving what others had abandoned, and Lisa admired that. But peace never lasted long. One morning, the heartstone dimmed. Not all at once, but slowly, like a lamp running low on oil. The Queen stood before it. Her silver filaments drooping, the air in the chamber felt heavy, thick with unspoken fear. "What is it?" Lisa asked, though she already knew. "The hollowing is changing." The Queen sent "It is no longer just forgetting, it is twisting memories, turning truth into poison." Lisa frowned. How it showed her a vision, a human colony on the green world of Viralia, once peaceful, now tearing itself apart. Neighbors accusing each other of betrayal. Friends turning to enemies, all because they remembered wrong. They believed lies dressed as truth. "Someone is helping it," Lisa said. The Queen nodded. "A being from the void, not born of flesh, but of silence itself. It calls itself the Eraser. It does not destroy, it rewrites." Lisa felt cold. "We have to stop it." "But how?" the Queen asked. "How do you fight a lie when the liars believe they speak truth?" Lisa thought of Earth, of history books rewritten, of voices silenced, not by force but by slow erasure. She knew this enemy well. "We do not fight it," she said. "We remind people of who they really are." She asked for a ship not armed, not fast, but one that could carry voices. This time she would not go alone. Elena came without hesitation. Claire too. Though she had only just gotten her daughter back, she said, "Someone has to speak for those who cannot." They also brought Kyle, a young Ziran scholar who could read memory crystals like music and translate their truth into sound. Their first stop was Viralia. The planet looked green from orbit, but the moment they landed, the air tasted sour. The trees stood still. No birds, no wind. The people moved like ghosts. Eyes hollow, mouths tight with suspicion. They went to the central square where once a great tree of unity stood now. It was wrapped in black vines that pulsed like veins. Lisa stepped forward and began to sing, not a lullaby this time, but a work song her grandmother used to hum while fixing old radios, simple, steady, full of rhythm. First no one listened. Then a child stopped and tilted her head. The song reminded her of her mother's hands kneading bread of laughter in the kitchen of safety. The child began to hum along, then an old man joined his voice, rough but true. Then more, the black vines shivered and cracked, light seeped through. But from the shadows a figure emerged, tall, thin, wrapped in shifting gray cloth, its face smooth, blank. No eyes, no mouth, just silence given form. You cannot undo what has been rewritten. The eraser sent its voice like dry leaves scraping stone. Watch me. Lisa said. She turned to Elena, read them. The truth. Elena opened her notebook and began to speak. Not of heroes, but of small things. A baker who gave bread to hungry travelers. A teacher who stayed late to help a struggling student. A farmer who shared his last seed after the drought. Ordinary kindnesses. The crowd listened, their eyes clearing like fog lifting. The eraser hissed and reached for Lisa. But she did not flinch. She held up her scarred hand and spoke one word, remember. The word carried the weight of every story ever told, every name ever spoken in love, every promise kept. The eraser staggered back, its form flickering for the first time, showing cracks of light beneath the gray. It fled into the trees, but Lisa knew it would return. They stayed on Varelia for 3 days, helping the people rebuild not just buildings, but trust. They held circles where everyone spoke their truth. No judgment, only listening. By the end, the black vines were gone and the unity tree bloomed white flowers that smelled like rain. Next, they went to the iron moons of Kor, where the hollowing had turned warriors against their own code. They had forgotten why they fought, only that they must. Lisa did not sing there. She sat in the center of the arena and told them a story about a soldier who laid down his sword, not because he was weak, but because he saw his enemy's child in the other's eyes. The warriors wept, and the glass deserts of Cell. They found a city where no one spoke aloud. All communication done through cold screens. The hollowing had convinced them that real voices carried. Lisa stood on the highest dune and laughed, a full, bright sound that echoed across the sandspeople. Came to the windows, then stepped outside, drawn by the warmth of a real human laugh. They began to speak again, slowly at first. Then in River Seach world, they visited. The eraser grew weaker but angrier. It began to hunt them. On the 4th world, a mining station orbiting a dead star. The eraser set a trap as Lisa stepped off the ship. The air turned thick. The others vanished. Sound gone, light dimmed. She was alone in a corridor that stretched forever. You are just a woman. The eraser whispered from the walls. You think your kindness matters, but the universe is cold and vast and no one remembers your name. Lisa stopped walking. I do not need the universe to remember me, she said. I only need to remember others. She closed her eyes and thought of Claire, holding Elena's hand, of the child on Varelia, humming of the old man's tears, of the baker, the teacher, the farmers. She began to list their names aloud, softly at first, then louder. Each name a spark, each spark a flame. The corridor shuddered. The walls cracked. Light poured in. The eraser screamed, not in rage but in fear, because it realized something terrible. Kindness was not weak. It was patient, and it always returned. Lisa found her friends waiting outside the ship, unharmed. The eraser had fled. Again. But this time it left something behind, a single black feather that dissolved into ash when touched. Back on Zira, the queen examined the ash and said, It is afraid. Good, Lisa said. Let it be. But the victory felt fragile. That night Lisa dreamed of Earth. Not the Earth she knew, but one covered in silence. Cities, empty skies, gray, no music, no laughter. Just the hum of machines repeating empty words. She woke gasping. The queen was already there, waiting. It is coming for your home, the queen sent. Lisa nodded. I know. She had avoided thinking of Earth too much. It hurt too much to imagine it lost. But now she had no choice. We go to Earth? She said. Claire and Elena agreed without hesitation. Kale too, though he had never seen a human world. The journey would be long, but they had something the eraser did not. They had each other. As their ship left Zira's orbit, Lisa looked back at the 3 moons, one last time, then turned toward the stars ahead. She did not know if Earth still remembered kindness, but she would remind them, even if she had to walk every street, sing every song, speak every name until her voice gave out, because that was what she did. That was who she was, not a warrior, not a queen, Just Lisa, the one who remembered. And as long as she remembered, no one would be truly lost. Lisa stood at the edge of the landing platform, her boots scuffed from weeks of walking through dust and ash, her uniform torn at the shoulder and stained with engine grease. She had not expected to survive the crash, let alone be standing under a sky lit by 3 moons on a planet not marked on any human star chart. The ship had broken apart during atmospheric entry, fire licking at the hull like a hungry beast. Lisa had been the only one to make it to the escape pod, and even then she landed, hard rolling down a rocky slope until the pod cracked open and spilled her onto red soil. She woke alone, cold and confused, with no signal, no rescue beacon, no hope. For 3 days she walked, following the curve of a strange river, hoping to find anything, a sign of life, a ruin, a signal. But instead she found silence. Then on the 4th morning she saw them. Tall figures with skin like polished obsidian, their eyes glowing soft gold in the dim light. They moved without sound, their long limbs graceful. Like dancers, they surrounded her not with weapons, but with stillness. Lisa raised her hands slowly, heart pounding. She had read the reports. Alien species were rarely kind to lost humans, but they did not attack. They watched. Then one stepped forward. Taller than the rest, her head crowned with silver filaments that shimmered like starlight. Her eyes held ancient knowledge and deep sorrow. She looked at Lisa, and without warning dropped to one knee. Bowing her head low, the others followed like wheat bending in wind. Lisa froze. "What is happening?" she whispered, but no one answered. The queen rose and gestured for Lisa to follow. They led her through forests of crystal trees that chimed in the wind, across bridges made of woven light, into a city carved from living stone. The buildings pulsed gently as if breathing inside the central chamber. The queen turned and spoke, her voice, not in words but in images that bloomed in Lisa's mind. "You carry the mark." The queen showed her a memory. A human woman standing alone on a battlefield, surrounded by fallen warriors of 100 species. She wore no armor, only a simple gray coat, her eyes calm as she faced an army that dared not move. "Who is that?" Lisa asked. "You," she replied. Lisa laughed. Nervously, "That is not me. I am just a pilot. I fix engines. I do not fight wars." The queen tilted her head, then showed another memory. The same woman stepping between 2 warring empires, offering her hands in peace. When others offered blades, she spoke. One word and the war ended, not because of force, but because every being present felt the truth in her voice. "That woman disappeared centuries ago," Lisa said, frowning. "We waited. The queen sent softly. We knew she would return in another form. Another time. The soul does not change, only the shell." Lisa shook her head. "This is a mistake. I am not her. I have never done anything great." The queen stepped closer and placed a hand on Lisa's chest, not over her heart, but just below it, where a small scar curled like a crescent moon from a childhood accident. Lisa had almost forgotten it. "This mark is hers," the queen said. "You were born with it in every life." Lisa looked down at the scar. She had always thought it ugly. Now it glowed faintly warm against her skin. "Why me?" she asked. "Because you choose kindness even when afraid," the queen replied. "You helped your crew escape before saving yourself. You shared your last water with a wounded alien on the 3rd moon of Vega. You never speak of it. But we remember." Lisa blinked, tears forming. "You watched me." "Not watched. Honored," the queen corrected. "We followed your light across the stars." Lisa sat on the smooth stone floor, overwhelmed, the weight of centuries pressing on her shoulders. She was just Lisa from Ohio, who liked old movies and hated mushrooms, who cried at dog commercials and once got lost in a grocery store for an oar. "You do not know how to be a legend," she said. "You already are," the queen said simply. "You just forgot." Then alarms rang through the city, not loud but deep like thunder underwater. The queen's eyes darkened. Invaders. The queen sent images of jagged ships tearing through the sky, black metal and red fire. They were coming to take the Heartstone, a crystal that kept the planet alive. "They will destroy everything," Lisa said. "Not if you stand with us." The queen held out her hand. "Will you remember who you are?" Lisa looked at her hands, then at the scar, then at the faces of the aliens who had bowed to her. Not out of fear but respect. She thought of all the times she had stepped forward when others stepped back. Not because she was brave, but because no one else would. "Okay," she said. The queen smiled and led her to the highest tower where the heartstone floated above a pool of liquid light. Lisa reached out and touched it. Warmth flooded her veins. Memories not hers, but yes. Hers flooded her mind. Battles. Peace. Songs whispered in dead languages. The faces of friends long gone. The weight of choices that shaped galaxies. She remembered the invaders landed their warriors clad in spiked armor. Their leader, a hulking brute with eyes like burning coals. He laughed when he saw Lisa standing alone before the heartstone, a human. He sneered. Pathetic. Lisa did not speak. She simply raised her hand and the ground trembled. The crystal trees sang, the sky turned gold. Light poured from her scar and wrapped around her like armor. The invaders froze, their weapons falling from their hands. You cannot fight us. The brute growled. I am not fighting, Lisa said softly. I am reminding you. She stepped forward and placed her palm on his chest. He screamed, not in pain but in recognition, memories of his own forgotten kindnesses rising like bubbles from deep water. He fell to his knees, weeping. The others followed. The battle ended without a single shot. Fired afterward, the queen stood beside Lisa on the tower, watching the invaders leave in peace. You did not need to remember everything, the queen said, just enough. Lisa smiled. I think I am starting to understand. Stay with us, the queen asked. Teach us again how to be gentle. Lisa looked at the 3 moons, the chiming trees, the quiet strength of the people who had waited so long for her return. Okay, she said, I will stay, and for the first time in many lifetimes she felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Not because she was special, but because she had finally stopped running from the truth that kindness was her greatest power. The wind carried her name through the city, not as a title, but as a promise. Lisa the bridge, the peacemaker, the one who remembered how to care, and somewhere in the stars, another lost soul would one day hear that name and feel a little less alone.